Okay.
Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Mochiveda Vibhagine Yom Abda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om. I'm learning to enjoy the Om. I'm studying for my seminar in Portuguese language of the Mandukya. So it gets very much into the meanings, the meaning of Omkara, yeah? And the three words, yeah? The three, not word, the three syllables. Yeah? So therefore, I was inspired to do a three Oms again. Three Shanti.
Waking, sleeping, and waking, dreaming, and sleeping. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Exactly. See how good you have qualified students, huh? You talk of Mandukya and we are on the same page. Okay, so we're going to begin again from this verse 15 to 16, which says, grains are for men. Oh, let me stop myself. Sorry. Put it in aeroplane. So this verse says that grains are for men. The vibrations of the full moon and the new moon sacrifice are for the gods. So we cover this and a few other verses afterwards. But it remained a question of what is the real meaning about these different kinds of foods. You know, it's in the previous verse, it was saying that there are several kinds of foods. God creates the world, and Jiva creates different kinds of foods. You know, the Jiva's vision, and interpretation of the world produce here. By thought and action, Jiva creates 7 kinds of foods. It was a statement on the verse 14. So Lynn has studied a little bit. She did some research and she brought some more material on which we can do a better analysis of this concept. That by thought, in the Vedas there is a description of duality that is created by taking the self to be a jiva. So we are analyzing, the text is analyzing Ishvara's creation and Jiva's creations. The moment that the self takes the Jiva Atma to be the self, to be Atma, to be without necessary Jiva Atma knowing that he or she is Paramatma. So the moment that Jiva comes into place, and then consciousness are going to create different kinds of food. By thoughts and actions, Jiva is going to create karma and project food. Food goes for experience, because Jivas, they love, they are moved by experience. They live by the will of desire for experience. And then those experiences, they become nutrients. I mean, some nutrients, they are very good. Some are a little bit toxic, as we know, but nevertheless, so the Jiva is always seeking to have consume objects of experience. So by thoughts and actions, Jiva creates 7 kinds of food. So it says as well that Jiva has 18 mouths, 10 sense organs, 5 pranas, mind, intellect, and ego. So these are the functions of Jiva Atma by which it consumes different levels of experience. Okay, so it's interesting that it leaves 18 mouths, 10 sense organs, that it leaves out the Anandamaya kosha here, because the Jiva enjoys as well, the Anandamaya experience through the causal body. It consumed. We all love to consume that kind of food experience in deep sleep and in those moments, in which we experience a nice sense of completion and peace and satisfaction. So, but doesn't matter, we go to the 15th to the 16th, grains are for men, the vibrations of the full moon and new moon sacrifice are for the gods. So the sacrifice here are the rituals. I mean, Lynn has done some work, and in my understanding, we're going to cover some of what she has presented us with, but the sacrifice of the rituals. So Jiva Atma, it has, it has the physical food for the physical body, but it has some other foods, and among the foods there are the foods for the gods, and those are the sacrifice, or let's say the rituals that Jiva performs as a mean to adore, to have this relationship with the Creator in a reverential kind of manner of gratitude and love and appreciation and so on. So this verse here, according to this short description of James, says that milk is for the lower animals, mind, speech, and vital airs are for the self. So those are those are foods. So the mind is a sort of food, because through our mental and emotions we consume those thoughts and determinations, concepts, notions. These are all experience, the experience on the subtle level, or emotions or thoughts. The speech as well, it takes us into another sort of experience, which is another sort of food, vital airs as well. So all of these are food for the self, because the self is not an experiencing, knowing entity, but it shows up as Jivatma, and then it consumes all of those experiences. And every experience that we consume on the mental and on the verbal and on the energetical level of we all experience this, for the sake of ourselves, and we are the self. So all of these are for the sake of the self. Okay, so we have milk for the lower aspect of animals, including the human animal, and then those consumptions done through the subtle body, they are for the fulfillment of the Atma, the self. So therefore, those are the 7 kinds of food. Okay, grains and the vibrations of full moon and new moon, that we don't exactly know what these rituals are all about, but again, it's a level of experience for the Jiva Atma as an offering to the gods. Isn't it more or less what you understood, Lynn? Please, you did a little, you did good research. I was so busy that I couldn't do much of a deep look into that, and I was hoping we could do it together today.
That's the essence of it, that from my reading of it.
Okay. And then here in this exposition of James, say humans eat food. Yes, that goes for the physical body. The vibrations of the sacrifice, so are the mantras and the thoughts, when they worship God. Here the God is presented as worship of the elements, and then on a practical level, Ramji puts it as just having a certain attitude towards the environment, taking care of the environment. Okay, so but it's more than that. If we give it a spiritual religious twist, it's really a devotional ritual or attitude or spirit. Okay, of worshiping gods, and that seems to be the place in which the moon, the full moon rituals and the new moon rituals, they are kind of dedications or you know, how you say, sacrifice. You know, we are just spend time to present food to Ishwara. So we see in India, we see they, even in other culture like Japan and China, they offer literal food to those inmates, you know. So it's like, Lord, okay, here is the food that you need. But what is the food that Lord needs from the perspective of the Jiva? It's Jiva's acknowledgement of the Creator, reverence to the Creator, thankfulness to the Creator. This is the food that Jiva, you know, provides to the gods. Okay, it is the remembrance that there is a Creator, and we are thankful and we appreciate and we dedicate certain actions, especially for the Creator. Okay, those are seen as sacrifice. We sacrifice what we are sacrificing. Yeah? We are sacrificing our thoughts, basically based on desires and fears. You know, our thoughts in regards to what I want to consume, and I'm not even considering the Creator. So those are the thoughts that are going to the Creator, which can be seen as the elements, okay? Taking care. The consciousness in the elements is called God. So when we look through the elements, we know that there is an essence of everything, which is Ishwara in one level and Brahman on a deeper level. The environment in which Jiva live responds to them. This is a nice passage because it presents gods, which are many, but basically they are just representatives, like I often say, to the only one Creator, which is the Creator, which is Isvara. No? So this Isvara is present here as a living being, a living principle. Okay, why it's living principle? Because it responds to the thoughts and actions of all Jivatmas. Okay, so consciousness, meaning to say sattva guna, and consciousness and pure sattva or pure consciousness is the essence of all the entire universe, which comprehends the five elements. So, and this universe, which is made up by these blocks of the three gunas, the three elements, they are alive. So it's alive, and it responds to Jiva's prayers, actions, devotions, rituals, remembrance. Mind, speech, and vital airs make it possible for consciousness to appear in duality. So those mental and verbal and energetic aspects of our human experience, it's which allows consciousness to appear as the experiencing knowing entity called Jivatma. Because objects are created by Ishvara and are converted into objects of experience and enjoyment by the Jiva, they relate to both Ishvara and Jiva, just as a woman is related to both her parents and her husband. Okay, so we know, we have looked into that. There is not much of a commentary from James here. The objects, which are basically the elements, and they get somehow made up or configured in certain ways that produce infinite numbers of namarupas. And then these objects are created by Ishvara. Fundamentally, they are the five elements. And then the Jivas are going to convert them into objects of enjoyment. unfortunate Jivas are going to convert some of these basic value neutral elements. Some of them are going to be converted into objects of pain by the Jiva, because it will depend on what he likes or she likes and what he likes or she does not like. She does not or he does not. So these elements, they are both related to Isvara and to Jiva. So to Isvara, they are just the stage on which the Jiva is going to project or superimpose value. They are value neutral, and it's the creation as it is, in which the Jiva, the agent or the experiencing agent, also appears. And then the Jiva is going to create its own subjective reality, because it's going to project its likes and dislikes. Just as a woman is related to parents and her husband, this universe, this Vyavaharika, is related to Isvara as the creator and to Jiva as the creation in different ways, the same way a woman is going to be related to her parents and to her husband in different ways. So this universe, this Jagata, relates to Isvara as just the pure matter, value neutral matter and energy, and relates to Jiva as something intrinsically contain satisfaction, joy, ananda, and then the Jiva sees it in a different way, because Jiva is not as wise as Isvara, of course, far from being as wise. Anything from you, Lynn?
No, not really. Swami P talked about Ishvara Shrishti and Jiva Shrishti, the creations, the different creations, as you said, just that the reality is something in between those two relationships, objective and subjective.
That's interesting what you say, that the reality is something in between. So because when we hear this word in between, it's not, the reality is not just matter and energy, and the reality is not really like the real world of this intrinsic value. It's something other than these two, okay? And in between, so between is it's an interesting statement because the reality is the substratum of either Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika. So the subject creation of the Jiva fundamentally is Brahman, and the objective reality of matter energy is Brahman. So something in between, or something that pervades both, something that is the intrinsic nature of either Pratibhasika and Vyavaharika. What was the take you got from this in between, Lynn?
It's kind of what we call mithya. It either exists nor doesn't exist.
Okay.
Is
that makes total sense. From that angle, the world, the universe as we see it, it's neither value neutral, and it's neither or nor, filled with value, because it's just mithya. It's there, but it's not real. How can you say that something which does not really exist, which is not real, as we say, is not real? How can we say that it has certain value, intrinsic value? And the same way, how can we say that something that is not real be seen by the Jiva-Atma as something that has total intrinsic value, So you because it belongs to a different order called this apparent reality, mithya, and then we cannot say, from that angle, it's something in between, because it's not real, it's not real, it's not intrinsically valuable, okay, and it's not totally deprived. We cannot even state that it's totally deprived of value, because how can you say it does not have any value if it doesn't, if it's not even real to begin with? Huh? That's the point, right? Or not?
I'll go with that.
So Lynn has sent me some of these verse. I forgot to forward for you guys. I want to send it to everybody. The verse on the Jiva Srishti, translated by Swami Shwahananda. In the Saptana Brahmanana of the Veda, there is a description of duality created by the Jiva. By action and reflection, the Jiva creates 7 kinds of food. So by action, by words, as we were saying before, and by reflection, because upon reflection, the Jiva is going to attribute value to the Vyavaharika. So it has to reflect, it has to consider. So, and then it creates 7 kinds of food, okay? Meaning to say 7 kinds of objects of experience, including the rituals of certain actions, mental and verbal actions dedicated to the Lord. It's a kind of food for the Jiva, even though it is present to the Lord. One kind of food is meant for men, 2 kinds of foods for the celestial beings. The 2 kinds of foods most probably are the rituals relate to the full moon and the new moon. The 4th kind of food is for the lower animals, which is milk to begin with, and the remaining 3 are for the self. Okay, thus the food is divided. So the remaining 3 are the mental, intellectual, mental, and the pranas. All of that is said to be for the self, for the Atma. We consume those experiences for the sake of the Atma, the self. Grains such as wheat are for men. The ingredients of the full moon and the new moon rituals are for the devas. Milk is for the lower animals, and the mind, the speech, and the vital airs are for the self. These are the 7 kinds of foods. Verse 16, which was omitted by James, right? The verse 17, sought all these objects sought, though all these objects are in themselves created by Ishvara, still by action and reflection, the Jiva has converted them into objects of experience, meaning to say enjoyment. Hence, they are said to be Jiva's creation. So it's further clarify actions and reflections. The Jiva is going to determine, oh, this I like. Oh, this I like, but just a bit. Oh, this I like a lot. Oh, I'm crazy for this one. So the Jiva is going to create all kinds of objects of enjoyment on the same objects created by Ishvara. And the funny thing is, different Jivas are going to superimpose different kind of enjoyment, and to the extent of even superimpose pain and suffering in some other objects. Someone may find wonderful, a great source of enjoyment, and on a certain object, and another Jiva may superimpose the opposite idea. Oh, this is terrible. This, I don't even want to come close to consume that kind of experience. As they are created by Ishvara and become objects of enjoyment or experience for the Jiva, so they relate to both, just as a woman is related to both her father and her lover or her husband. In the actual 19, in the actual creation, Oh, you guys are not following this one. Sorry, I forgot to share with you. In the actual creation of the objects, the modifications or functions of Maya, the power of the Lord are the cause, whereas the actual enjoyment of those objects, it is the modifications or functions of the inner organs of the Jiva that are responsible. So, in other words, the inner organs, the organs of experience, the functions and the inner functions of the subtle body are going to allow Jiva to experience subjectively all of those, the configurations created by Maya. So the actual creation of the objects and the modifications of Maya, the power of the Lord, are the cause of this Vyavaharika. And the enjoyment, the actual enjoyment of those objects, the moment Jiva interacts with the field, and then there will be another sort of modification through the functions of the inner organs. And that is something that the Jiva and only Jiva know how to do, okay? To superimpose or project a value or enjoyment. And what is the opposite of enjoyment? Suffering.
Suffering.
Okay. They are going to project enjoyment or suffering, pain. Objects created by Isvara do not alter, they remain the same, but gems may affect different people, different according to the mental state. What is these gems? But gems may affect.
I think he's just using gem as an example of someone will value it, someone will not see the value in it. If a child saw a diamond on the road,
Right on, yeah.
Might be pretty, but
yeah. So the mind is going to determine. One man may feel happy on obtaining a gem, yeah, whereas another man feel disappointed at failing to obtain it. And a man uninterested in it may only look on and feel neither happy nor disappointed. So the same example, the Jiva creates three feelings of happiness, disappointment, or indifference with regard to the gem, but the nature of the gem as created by Isvara remains the same throughout. The Jiva creates three feelings of happiness, creates disappointment or indifference with regard to the gem. What is these three feelings, three levels of happiness? Does it mean Priya, Moda, and Pramoda or not?
no, I think it just means three feelings: happiness, repulsion, dispassion, or three feelings.
Okay. But the nature of the gem creates, the gem as created by Isvara remains the same throughout. Through personal relationships, one and the same woman appears differently as a wife, daughter-in-law, sister-in-law, etc., etc. But the woman remains unchanged, the same parallel. And then there is, so nice, there is even an objector here. Are you guys enjoying this passage, Father? And then there is an objector here. It says, these different relationships may be seen, but no change in the woman's appearance are seen to result from other people's ideals about her. Okay, again, these three relationships of woman, the woman relates to the daughter-in-law, sister-in-law, and to her husband or mother, and so on. So these different levels, relationship may be seen, but no changes in the woman's appearance are seen to result from other people's ideas about her. Yeah, so people are going to look into the woman and will see no difference, although she's going through these three different relationships respect to different people. So, and what is the point here? Just seeing to the result from the other people's ideas. So what people looking from outside, other observers are going to see no difference in her appearance, although she is relating to three principles, let's say, the same way the Jiva relates to the world in three manners. Jiva is related to the world with three manners. The world is just matter/energy, it's value neutral, and the Jiva is having this relationship. And then the parallel is with the woman. And then he says, but people looking at the woman does not see any change. And people looking at the Jiva Atma, do they look and see some change in the way it relates? I don't know what to say, what to do of this one. Let's see if the following verse is going to further clarify it. The objector reply, not so. The woman has a subtle body as well as the physical body composed of flesh, etc. Although other people's ideas about her may not affect her physical body, yet they can change her mental state. So I'm having a hard time here to connect the dot and to keep it all, on the same page. So first it says that the objector says these different relationships of the woman with different people in her family, to describe the different relationships of the same Jiva Atma to different matter or elements. So it says that these different relationships may be seen, but no change are going to be noticed by people's, are seen to result from other people's ideas about her. No, it's ideas about her. Okay, I think I start getting more or less what it's pointing to. So there is a relationship between the woman and these different people. But then on the other hand, these people have different ideas about her. But no changes in the women's appearance are seen to result from other people. But suppose the people have different ideas about her, there is no change in her, okay? There is no change, there are no change. And then the reply is the woman has a subtle body as well as a physical body. Although other people's idea about her may not affect her physical body, it says it's change, it may affect her mentally. So what else to do about that? So we need to find a parallel with the Jiva, experience the world. Okay, although the woman is not going to, no, it does not make much sense. So please help me out. It's a pity that Mark and Elizabeth do not have the.
I don't have it in front of me either.
They may. I'm reading from the email.
Oh, from the email itself.
Yeah.
Oh, I could maybe find that, but I think we could go on.
Okay.
I think what it's saying, Arlindo, is that even though, let's go back to the diamond example that Lynn gave. 3 people walking along the road and they all see a diamond, they've all got a different response to it. One's super happy, one's indifferent, and one's disappointed. I think this is talking about the same thing. So even though 3 people see the woman is actually basically the same. She doesn't change, it's people's responses to her and people's ideas, the values they put on her, which changes. Okay. I think that's what it's trying to explain.
Maybe that's the point. The woman is there and the Jiva is there, so it's seeing the gem and having different reactions now, and then the woman is there, and in which way it connects with people having different ideas. I almost got it, but it escaped my mind again. Can you repeat it?
Okay, so you imagine you see the diamond and it makes you very happy because you know it's worth a lot of money. You see the woman, she's very beautiful, so it gives you a good sensation of happiness. Other person sees the woman and he's not at all impressed and he's indifferent towards it, and somebody else is disappointed.
Yeah.
So I think what it's trying to say is, even though the outer appearance doesn't change, our practibhasika changes is very subjective. I think that's basically all it's trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah, people observing the
Lynn,
woman. Yeah. It got a little bit confused because first relate the woman to 3 different people. Yeah. And then now people
yeah,
watching her and seeing her and having different reactions toward her. So those reactions are going to affect the woman or not. And then here
well,
it does not affect
they're not going to affect. They're not going to affect the appearance of the woman anyway, which
Yeah.
is what he goes on to say.
Yeah.
But maybe they affect the subtle
Yeah.
body.
Yeah, they can change her mental state. Yeah, that's very nice. Thank you. So it may affect the objects perceived in the states of delusion, dreaming, remembering, and imagining. The mind cannot affect the objects perceived through the sense in the awake state. So this is important to know. The objector is saying, although it may affect the objects perceiving the states of delusion, so the Jiva, when it sees the world, it is superimposing and it's seen in a delusional way, dreaming, imagining, and so on. So it's superimposed there, but the mind cannot affect the object perceives in the awake state. So this is that point that we cannot really change the Vyavaharika, no matter how delusional or dream or imaginating we may be. We don't have that power to change things. So we can change things subjectively, never objectively, right? Otherwise, we could just convert or change a stone into food, like Christ was said to do. So I can interact with the physical, and I can change things. I can manifest. And let's see what the Swami says. It's true. Shankaracharya and others acknowledge the fact that the mind assumes the form of external objects with which it comes in contact and modifies that form to suit its purpose. Okay, in which way it's going to modify its forms is subject to a discussion here, because physically, literally, materially, tangibly, we cannot change, but we modify through our superimposition of value. So the mind assumes the form of the object. So the mind sees an object, and then it takes the object and assumes the object, but then the interpretation that the mind will take on that object is very personal. So it modifies to suit its purpose. It is the Pratibhasika realm. Okay, so appears an object. So Ramji likes to say the thought of an object is not different from the object. You remember that? You remember that statement? So there is an object, and an object does not come without a name to the object. Okay, a thought of the object, a name in the thought of the object, and that is law. Okay, but then what happens? What happens that the Jiva is going to see that object, and the thought of object uniquely according to its vasanas. Okay, so everyone is going to have a different experience because our vasanas. That is the modification that serves the purpose to suit its purpose. What is the purpose there? Enjoyment. So, and then my vasanas, my likes and dislikes are going to be working for me so that I can go for what I like and reject what I do not like. So this is the purpose. The purpose is enjoyment, to attract enjoyment and to avoid suffering and pain. Sri Shankaracharya says that just as melted copper assumes the form of the mold into which it is cast, so the mind assumes the form of the object perceived by it. So again, this is a statement that we have seen in several of our texts. The mind, it's very flexible. It somehow, it molds itself with the objects it perceives. And that is a fair enough statement. Or just as the sunlight assumes the forms of the objects which it illumines, so the mind assumes the forms of the objects which it perceives. Very nice, this one. Just as the sunlight assumes the form of the object, so it's total darkness, there is no object, there is nothing you can see. And then the sunlight kind of takes the shape of the object. The object was there, but it was not known, perceived. So the sunlight is going to permeate the object and then appears, take the form as, assume the form, take the form, is because the light is going to be discounted or neglected by the observer, and the observer is going to see the light revealing the objects, but fundamentally the light is there permeating and assuming the form of the object. So the mind likewise assumes the form of the object. The same thing, the mind is going there and then it's going to see the mental the object and create a mental image and pervading that thought and then and projecting whatsoever likes and dislikes it has there into the account for that kind of object. So the mind assumes the form of the object which it perceives. Okay, another Mahatma says, out of the cognizer, the Jiva cognition, an appropriate modification of the mind takes place, is produced. So we have the intellect, the cognitive aspect or function of the Jiva Atma, and a cognition, appropriate out of the cognizer, Jiva, the cognition, an appropriate modification of the mind. Cognition is an appropriate modification of the mind. The mind is going to modify according to the object and the notions it holds about that object. So that cognition, which is a function, depends on this modification of the mind according to the Namarupa and the value superimposed on object. All of that is produced, says Sri Sureshwara. Thus, born, the modification proceeds towards the object of cognition until it gets into touch with the object, when it assumes the form of the object, which is known as the cognition of the object. This is very profound. It's trying to describe the process by which cognition takes place, and the mind somehow assumes the form of the object, and then the cognitive aspect or function is going to define it. Let me read it again. Thus born, this modification of the mind, thus born, the modification proceeds towards the object of cognition till it gets into touch with the object, when it assumes the form of the object, which is known as the cognition of the object. Okay? And then the last piece here, so we see there are two kinds of objects: the material object, the material world, and the mental world. The material is the object cognized by mind being modified The material world of object is the object cognized by mind being modified by the form of the material object. So the mind modifies itself, it permeates and takes the shape kind of the object. And that is the physical material object perceived by the mind. And then there is another kind of object, which is the conversion. And the mental object is cognized by the witness consciousness as the Jiva being affected by the material aspect of the object, come in contact with the mind and evoking its latent desires for enjoyment. Okay, so it's a nice philosophical way to describe the process. There are two kinds of objects: the real, material, physical, tangible objects, and the mental, emotional, even aspects of the object. So the material, it happens, naturally and unavoidably. Everybody comes in contact with the Nama-Rupa, and the mind takes the shape and of that modification, the modification in the mind. It takes the form of the material, physical, tangible object. And then there is the mental object, which is cognized by consciousness as the Jiva is going to, being under the power of Maya, is going to come in contact with its latent desires and enjoyments, and then it's going to be cognized uniquely. It's going to be as the Jiva being affected by the material, coming in contact with the mind and evoking its latent desire. So it's an interaction between my desires for enjoyment, my desires and fears, and the object is going to create a totally new kind of appearance object, which is unique to each one of us. So everyone has a different way to interpret. Lynn, thank you, Lynn. That was a very nice message material that Lynn present to us. So so we have seen then the objects are going back to the page 121. The objects are created by Isvara and convert into objects of experience and enjoyment by the Jiva. They are related to both Isvara and Jiva. We covered that now. Isvara is responsible for the functions of the subtle body, which causes Jiva's experience the objects. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Isvara. The functions of the subtle body are perceiving, thinking, feeling, willing, remembering. So thinking, determining, feeling, willing, desiring, and remembering. Under the spell of avidya, Jiva thinks it is perceiving, thinking, feeling, willing, and remembering. So it means to say, in this verse, it says that Isvara is responsible for those functions. And we should appreciate these functions, keep in mind that is by the grace of the Lord that Jiva can think, feel, will, determine, remember, and the sense of ownership and doership can be neutralized if we keep in mind the Lord as the giver of all these functions. The verse 20 to 22. Have we covered that last week? Okay. The substance of the material world created by Isvara is permanent, and the object transformed by Maya affect Jivas differently according to their vasanas. One person may feel happy on obtaining an object, whereas another may feel disappointed on obtaining the same object. A disinterested Jiva will feel nothing. So we covered this last week, and already reading the email of Lynn. And then we have this famous statement saying that Jivas do not experience the objects as created by Isvara, but they experience their vasanas. Now we have seen in more details that the mind takes the shape, takes the form of the object, and that is the physical, material, tangible object. And then there is a mental, emotional object, which is the conversion that we're going to experience. It's a combination of experience the physical object, experience the sought object, and experience the desires and fears we have in respect to those objects. So we could say that Jivas do not experience only the objects, but they experience the objects plus their vasanas. They create their reality by wanting certain objects and not wanting others. When they get what they want, they feel happy. When they don't, they feel unhappy. Isvara presents many objects to Jiva that do not trigger its vasanas. It produces a sense of indifference. Well, yeah, there are many objects that we are somehow okay. No, I don't feel attraction or repulsion towards certain objects, and according to our teachings, so the goal is to develop this sense of indifference, but this indifference should be based on knowledge, self-knowledge, and the deep understanding of the value-neutral nature of this Vyavaharika. So all these understandings of my nature as already whole, full, and complete, and not in lack of anything, in no need of consuming objects. This understanding of one's nature, plus the understanding of the apparent nature of the Vyavaharika, in fact, the fact that the object deprived of value, intrinsic value, all of that is going to allow us to have more and more objects that were indifferent. Most people, they see the objects and they either some people have the personality or character that is more like to desires. I want. And there are some other people that have more a tendency, personality that is more like, I don't like this. I don't like. So, and there are some people that are somewhat more like indifferent. Okay. So this indifference may come from tamoguna, kind of depression that makes someone's not to wish to get involved with this force of nature, that attraction. Is no, it's too much complicated, too much trouble. Okay, let me take my pill, and I remains a yoni in total dispassion here. So that is a depression. But there are some yonis that have this indifference, and the more indifferent we are, the more equanimous we are, the wiser we are, the more vairagya we have. And that has to come from wisdom, spiritual wisdom that allows us to see everything not negatively. And it's not this negative indifference, it's a positive. You see everything as God's creation, the elements beautifully shining and deluding and deceiving all jivas, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So when you look from that angle, and then you can be positively indifferent to the object, but at the same time very appreciative. Okay, this we cover. Where did we stop last time? I don't remember.
We were going to start on verse 31, as I have it.
Let me see what James says about this verse 27. 26. The mind may affect the object perceived in the state of delusion, dreaming, remembering, and imagining. Does it also affect the object perceived through the sense in the waking state? So the response is no, the mind does not have that power. Sureshwara and others point out the fact that the mind assumes the form of the external object with which it comes in contact and modifies that form to suit its purpose. So this modification, as we have seen, is in the mental emotional aspect of the object. As we have seen, there is a physical world and the mental emotional, physical object and the mental object. So it modifies on the mental level, but it does not modify on the physical material level. That is the modification to suit its desires. This verse debunks the persistent belief that in the spiritual world that physical object can be controlled by the mind. What I don't know. So I'm not much into these mystical things, but I heard an incredible story when I was with Papaji. He relates some encounters he had with yogis coming out of the forest, a time that he was traveling all over India, and he was doing this tour because he wanted to find. He was so tired of playing with Krishna. He was a devotee of Krishna, and Krishna, according to him, would manifest somehow. And he used to play with Krishna. And then he got tired of that because he realized that Krishna would come and go, and he had to do a lot of tapas to bring about Krishna again. And then he was tired. He said, I'm going to look for someone who can show me God, God that does not come and go. Finally enough, he meets Ramana Maharaj, and Ramana Maharaj set his mind right about that. But before, he tells many stories. He went to the forest, he saw, and then I said, I'm looking, what you are looking for? I'm looking for someone who can show me God. And then some people in a small village say, oh, out of that forest, there is a man that lives for many hundreds of years. He's very wise. He's a yogi. But it's very difficult. He does not appear. He does not show up very often. And only for certain people he shows up. And then Papaji says that he said, okay, I'm going to have my go. And he entered the forest. And then as he started entering, this entity comes out to receive and reverence, with great reverence towards him. And then Papaji said, wow, I met this guy. And the story is very nice. But the base here is that the person invited him for lunch, and according to Papaji, it manifests physical material lunch, not a sandwich, lunch, Italian Indian meal with everything, and then and he manifests like that, and they ate, and it was really physical material food according to Papaji. So the question is, so can those things be possible? So here and there we hear that those things are possible. I don't know. But, and then Papaji, after having lunch, had some chat with this entity, and the entity say, I was waiting for you for a long time. And he say, you waiting for me? I was looking for you. No, but I was waiting for your satsang. I say, my satsang? I say, yes, I have all these powers, but I need satsang because I'm not self-realized. So that is the other angle of this small story. But the point is here, Ramji is saying that this verse debunks the persistent, esoteric, mystical belief that physical object can be produced or manifest by the mind. So I leave to each one of us. I'm not a mystical guy, and I have no clue, but Nietzsche, anything is possible, isn't it? There is, we have this extreme. In Nietzsche, anything is possible. But it's not our goal, it's not our goal. I know some circles, some spiritual place, and I have been associated to one of them in the USA. And the main purpose, the main marketing or the sale pitch there was like, you're going to learn how to manifest things, thought over matter. So you can manifest things, you can manifest living for 250 years or more, and so on. I don't know. And we begin on the verse 31 today. Is the 31 that we begin today? Okay, so I'm a bit late. I'm 1 hour late, so we begin the class now, verse 31. Okay, the gross objective world, Vyavaharika, is created by Ishvara. The subjective world, Pratibhasika, is created by Jiva because of its latent desire for enjoyment. Yeah, that's all. Huh? So you see how important it is Jiva in this creation. So Swami Paramarthananda often presents the fact that Ishvara does not create sozinho, alone. It's a joint venture between Jivas and Ishvara, because Jiva has to provide Ishvara with its desire and for enjoyment. Desires and fears, our vasanas, they have to be present into the macrocosmic causal body mind of Ishvara, you know, and then there Ishvara is going to present the Pratibhasika according to our desires for enjoyment, until we no longer want to enjoy and suffer, no? Experience pleasure and pain. We become equanimous. We develop indifference, wise indifference, and then Ishvara goes out of job, which would be very sad. Yeah? And that's why the scriptures say, no, Ishvara has no beginning and no end, and there is no such a thing as all the Jivatmas becoming yanis, because that would be equivalent of putting an end of this meteor projection. You understand? The meteor projection depends on Jiva's creation. So this is created by Jiva, and it creates it because of its vasanas, desires for enjoyment. So it says everything about the way things work in meteor. Huh? Isn't it amazing to see how things are? What is the business here? You know, it's unbelievable. Okie dokie. Anything from you guys?
I was just thinking that it's a beautiful group of verses because it pinpoints so exactly where the error is. You know, there's no error in the sense data coming into the mind. It's only when it hits that ignorance that those desires and fears and whatever come up that make the error and create the suffering. So once you can really pinpoint that, if with that alertness, you can substitute the scripture for the vasanas load that
wonderfully put. Yeah, very, very nice. Yeah, you're gonna see the world from the angle or from the perspective or through the vision of the scriptural knowledge that reveals and unfolds, no, and exposes everything for what it is, you know, and the mechanics of creation, the way we fit into this ignorance and we get caught up. And the only way is not to put an end to life. The way is to see this world, you know, from this perspective of the scriptural knowledge revealed by the Lord Ishvara. Very nice. We have to replace our vision of the world, dictated by our vasanas, with the vision of the world according to the scriptural knowledge called Vedanta, the Upanishads. Very nice. Very nice. Nicely put, and a good way to close our satsang of today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Good to see you back, Elizabeth. I hope it does not take another month or two. Our special guest. We meet again soon, Isvara willing. Much love.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.